Hello and good evening, Chiefs Kingdom. It is my Christmas. It is, or my Christmas Eve at least. It is Draft Eve. I'm excited to be bringing you my mock drafts. I'm going to be doing three different mock drafts I've already completed. Um, it's not just about who I'm picking. There's thousands. Everybody's putting out their mock drafts. For all 10 to 20 of you that watch my videos, I appreciate you coming in here, checking it out. I've learned a ton this draft season. I've never immersed myself as much as I have this year. I'm going to share a little bit of what I've learned about the Chiefs in particular. This is very Chiefs specific draft content. Um, but I'm going to share some of the things I've learned about characteristics that the Chiefs scouting department uses, how the trades work. If you want to trade up, trade down, kind of what the Chiefs are working with as far as trade value there. Some different perspectives, and then I might even shoot a bloopers reel for a separate video just of how wildly different some of the experts are when I compared ESPN, Bleacher Report, CBS. Some guys are ranked to go in the first two rounds, but they're not even ranked to even be drafted in other boards. So it's crazy how much everybody's big boards are different. But I hope you learned something here. Feel free to disagree with me. I mean, obviously, clearly, everybody has their own opinions. They have their dogs in the race. Um, it's just been really fun to do it. I'd love to see your feedback in the comments if you watch this video. Love to hear from all 10 to 20 of you. But either way, go Chiefs. I love you, Chiefs Kingdom. Let's go through this mock. All right, so first on the left-hand side, you can see the current picks that the Chiefs hold. Will that be the picks that they actually select at this year? Who knows? We could trade up, we could trade down. We'll look at those different scenarios. Additionally, we'll take a quick look at who our top 30 visits are from. Right now, they're, as of my last check and my sources that I've been able to find, we've had 24 top 30 visits. Potential prospects at each pick. When I go through each of the picks that we do have, as if we don't trade, I'll cover some of the ones that I've noticed when I'm going through my mock drafts. I probably completed over 200 mock drafts between ESPN, the mock draft simulator, and primarily through PFF. But there's some challenges that each one poses because they have way different big boards. So a prospect that they're telling you is an A plus for getting in the second round may be like a C minus if you take them in the fourth round on another board. So it's all crapshoot. It's just for fun. Let's enjoy it. I'll try and make as realistic selections of what I think is really actually plausible, and I'll talk through maybe some of the changes. My rankings that I have when I'm comparing all the big five there, they're based off of after combine, not all the hype that's been built up in the last week to 2 weeks. So some of them have changed, both for the better or worse. So I'll kind of talk through some of those, and then I'll go through how trade valuations are. I am familiar with the Jimmy Johnson valuation method as far as draft picks go, so we'll kind of talk through that, and hopefully you'll learn something. It won't just be checking out another random dude's mock draft. So hopefully you get something out of this, and you actually have some fun while you're doing it. So thank you. So as we're going through this, you're going to see slides like this. It's an Excel spreadsheet that I built out. I call it a database, but it's really just an Excel spreadsheet that I've created using a lot of VLOOKUPs for the names and everything, which was a bit tedious, and I'll find a better way to do it next year. But you can see under the blue tab, that one is showing each of the different rating sites. So CBS, ESPN, PFF, PFN, Professional Football Network, Bleacher Report. Under red, it shows what the best rank is, what that prospect's worst rank is, and what the difference is between the two. And it's valuable in the sense of you can see how high they're at least being projected at the highest end, and then also how low possibly you could get them. And then if there's such a huge wide range, that tells you that nobody really knows with this prospect, and they could go pretty much anywhere. So it gives you a good idea of maybe how the draft's looking. And then the far left is like the overall final score I give them. It's an average of all 5 of those sites. So right here, I'm not going to go through all of these, but these are the prospects that have done top 30 visits with the Chiefs. Based on the order that they have, that they're projected to be picked. Now, T'Vondre Sweat, I'll tell you right now, that's based right after the combine and before his DUI. From what I've seen, the best I can make a guess is he'll be available sometime in early fourth round. That's about what he's being mocked on PFF after they've adjusted it. Nobody really knows how that stuff will affect him. He still could be a second or a third round pick. Definitely didn't up his chances. But you can see we had him. Jonathan Brooks came in about that same time, which is a stud running back from Texas. Kind of a strange one there for me, but we'll see if that's a smokescreen or nobody really knows at the top 30. That's what these are, is generally, prospects you might be interested in, prospects you might be interested in for UDFAs, and then, prospects that you want to kind of throw off, people who might try and jump ahead of you in the draft just to get someone. So that way they don't know who you're planning on picking. The 4 on the bottom didn't show up under CBS's rankings. I mean, I'm familiar with at least Travis Glover out of Georgia State. He's got all the intangibles you want for a left tackle. Just doesn't have the competition. He did very well during senior day, so who knows? He could be a UDFA for us. Quantez Stiggers is a stud who actually he did not attend college. He dropped out of college due to the death of his father, and he's projected as a 5th round pick. He was the Rookie of the Year in the Canadian Football League, so he's an interesting prospect. Somebody you can maybe get high value but low draft comp. So that's what I'd say about our top 30. Kingsley Suamataia, as of this recording, 24 hours before the draft, that's the number one name I'm seeing that the Chiefs are looking at drafting at 32 if we stay there. So I don't know if I buy it. That's a smokescreen that's being put out. All right, time for our first round of potential prospects. This is our realistic draft. Got Amarius Mims. He's an interesting prospect for some, but I've read that he is only really going to be a right tackle. So it doesn't really fit what we're looking for if he does drop to us. I have had it mock drafts where he has dropped to us, but I just don't see it being too useful unless we do plan on switching Jawan Taylor. The indications do not point in that direction. Kool-Aid and Nate Wiggins. I prefer Nate Wiggins over Kool-Aid just because of man-to-man coverage. Alabama ran a lot more zone coverage last year, and so therefore, that's not as much what Spags fits. Nate Wiggins ran it incredibly. I think it was a 4.27. Don't quote me on that, but he ran a fast 40. They're both excellent prospects. Statistically, Kool-Aid I thought was a little better, but I think for our system, Nate's the better guy. Adonai Mitchell, great wide receiver from Texas. Obviously, some bad reports came out about him, about attitude. Who knows the truth about that stuff? Some teams supposedly have removed him from their boards. Ladd McConkey's the excellent route runner from Georgia. Kingsley Suamataia from BYU, which we know Andy Reid loves his BYU kids, and that could be the pick tomorrow night. And then my personal favorite, who I like to just throw in there, he could go 32 to us. He could also go 33rd. He thinks he's going to go in the second round to Carolina. So we will see who I pick, but that's the first round prospects I think we could see drop to us. Of those prospects, I'm going with Adonai Mitchell. Not that saying who I want, but I think if he's available with all those other prospects, that's the guy the Chiefs would select. He ran a 4.3 4.40. I mean, he's got great ball skills, very few drops. He checks a lot of the boxes what the Chiefs want, and he could be a great wide receiver in the NFL. So depending if you went wide receiver first round or offensive tackle in the first round, you're going to be wanting to get the other one in the second round. That's almost assured to me. Again, in PFF they have Kingsley Suamataia at 66 now, so he's not as high as those ratings on the right would show. Who knows where he'll actually go? He's in the back end of those top 10 offensive linemen, or offensive tackles. So we'll see. You also have Xavier Worthy potentially in the second round. Kamari Lassiter is a pretty solid cornerback that makes it to the second round sometimes. Xavier Legette again. A defensive tackle, Chris Jenkins could be an interesting pickup in the second pick. I hope we don't use it for that. Jalen Polk is who Schrager had us picking in the first round. And then you got Ricky Pearsall. He was a great route runner out of Florida that also drops to around that time frame. Patrick Paul seems like a bit of a reach, but I mean, I like his pass blocking skill set and his measurables. He does have some refinement he needs in his craft, but he's a good prospect. Kieran Amagaji is one of my favorite prospects in this draft. They have him at 96.4, but it's not anywhere close to that now that we're actually closer to the draft. he doesn't have experience against some of the elite talent, but from everything you can see, I've watched film. I've what film is available for him. Checked out his measurables. He's got one of the largest wingspans there is. He's actually a left tackle. He's great in both run and pass blocking. Good movement. He has everything. We just don't know how he's going to look in the NFL. So it's a little bit of a risk, but tackles generally hit better than they don't as far as position groups go, and I think he would be an absolute steal at 64. Now let's hear what he had to say on why a team should draft him. So right there, just really quick, it does show, I forgot I put his measurables on the next page, but there you see his wingspan, 85.5 inches. That is larger than any MMA fighter I have ever seen. Offensive lineman, it's big for an offensive lineman even, but he is a big man. So he has the strength to come in and be an NFL starter. I think he's NFL ready right now. There are people that have different opinions on him. I know Nick Jacobs also was taking him in the second pick. From 41 is the Mike. I like it. I respect his opinion. Former offensive lineman. I like what I've seen from Kieran. I think he's a great value for us instead of having to trade up. Now, I'm not going to read everything Kieran said when he was at the scouting combine, but one of the things a couple of things is his confidence in himself, and he really believes it as he says it. He believes he's going to be the best offensive tackle that was taken in this draft, and he calls himself a can't-miss prospect. That level of self-confidence, his level of intelligence, you are a real you're a real student athlete when you're going to Yale and playing football. Came from a background where you had to work really hard. I really just like this kid. I think he's going to be an absolute stud, whoever gets him. Moving on into round 3, I think we could obviously still be looking at a tackle, wide receiver, depending on how the first 2 rounds went. But then also I think you're looking more at cornerbacks, linebackers, and offensive guards. I think we need to be looking at guard to a certain extent in the 3rd and 4th rounds just because we don't know exactly what's going to happen with the extensions of Nick Bolton, Creed Humphrey, or Trey Smith. So getting a guard would be good, and then you also got to be ready for the end of Tooney, being his time at Kansas City. So a lot of these are similar prospects that you've seen on other slides. A few new ones at the top there: Michael Hall Jr., Malachi Corley. I think we'd be maybe more interested in looking at them at this point. Malachi Corley is an absolute stud and would be a day one participant, for wide receiver. He'll have stuff. He's the kind of gadget type of wide receiver that Andy would love. Some of the same ones: Patrick Paul. Cooper Beebe is a real great offensive guard who's really highly rated in some draft boards as high as 49. So if he was still around in round 3 at 95, that's a great pickup. Jeremiah Trotter's one I've mocked many times because I would like us to get somebody who could maybe play a little bit of the Willie role, even though he's more of a middle linebacker. And then, just some other cornerbacks, guards. Christian Mahogany's a guy we had in for a top 30 visit. And then Malik Washington is my second favorite wide receiver in the entire draft. Not the second best, my second favorite. So let's see who my pick is. So with the 95th pick, Kansas City Chiefs select Cooper Beebe, Kansas State. I just think that's too good of a value to pass up, and you're never going wrong if you're building in the trenches. If he's still around at that point, it's just good value for us, and he's local. We obviously have had a fair amount of our own local guys in recent drafts, so I like Cooper Beebe. Moving on to round 4, trying to go through these quickly. T'Vondre Sweat, which I talked about early. You can see he has a 59.2 average draft board, so how is he going to fall? Well, he got that DUI arrest. Ben Sinnott, he's tight end out of Kansas State. Most of you are probably pretty familiar with. He's just a hard-working guy. I love his tenacity. I think him and Travis would be just fun to watch together. Watch him learn underneath him. Then you got some great defensive tackles in the 4th round that have dropped to this point because it's a pretty deep defensive tackle draft. I'm not a big fan of drafting defensive line in this draft, but it's kind of hard to overlook, the amount of talent that's there at defensive tackle. For the 4th round, there's some real talent there. The only real new addition is for wide receiver that I would say is of note would be Jacob Cowing. I like him if we wanted to do a change of pace slot receiver. You also have Brendan Rice there, which some people are a lot higher on than I am. It's just hit or miss how you think of him. And then also Luke McCaffrey could be at the back end of this, maybe beginning of next round. And Isaac Guerendo at running back. He's one of my favorite running back prospects in the draft. And the Chiefs select T'Vondre Sweat, Texas. Somebody we were projected to potentially take as early as the second round. It's a high risk. If he drops to us, it's definitely you got to consider it. Now, with what's going on with Rasheed, who knows if we'll actually pull that trigger. But he's a big boy, and defensive player of the year in the Big 12. He's a force to be reckoned with. Him with Chris Jones would be just incredible to watch. Now here in the fifth round, we actually get to select. We have two picks. We have the 159 and the 173 picks. Here, I think I could see us going with a linebacker, a cornerback. Don't really see an offensive tackle I really would love here. Potentially a tight end, depending on when the tight end run is. And then potentially also a running back. So let's see what we go with. With the 159th pick in the draft, the Kansas City Chiefs select DJ James out of Auburn. He's got the size-speed combo that Steve Spagnuolo likes. I think he's a great value, somebody who's kind of dropped on the boards, just not getting enough hype around this time. He had some pretty good PFF grades. You can get him in the fifth round. I think that's a steal. It seems like the type of pick the Chiefs would make. So I like DJ James. So moving on to the 173rd pick, I am taking running back Isaac Guerendo out of Louisville. He actually was never a starting running back in college. He does not have a ton of tread on the tires. And one of the best things, he ran the fastest 40 time, and that's not always what excites me. I don't care as much about 40 times as some other people do. But he was still one of the NCAA leaders in explosive plays. That is awesome, and I'd like to see that with a little bit of a thunder and lightning kind of combo between Isaiah Pacheco and him. It'd be really exciting to see and really boost our offense. Well, we're into that final round, so it's basically just take the best guy you can. Hopefully they can make the team. If not, hopefully they push everybody else to get better. I know some people really like Christian Boyd out of Northern Iowa. He could drop to this point just because of potentially competition, worries. Elijah Jones, he's ranked in PFF to be going around this time period. I get him quite frequently, but he's actually a really good 80-plus PFF rating cornerback. He has the measurables that you would want to see. Javion Cohen from Miami is a pretty decent guard. If we haven't got a guard at this point and he's still available, I think he could be a viable prospect. Frank Gore Jr. is one that I for the life of me, he's going to go somewhere and he's going to perform. And he's not going to be the Chiefs. But it's just one of those frustrating things where some people get name recognition and they get drafted too high. I don't know if his name recognition is like getting him dropped. I don't know what the issues are. Hopefully, if somebody knows, leave it in the comments. I want to know because he's outstanding. He had over 300 yards in his bowl game. He is an absolute stud running back. He's 5'8". I get that he's short, but there's been others short. Darren Sproles. Barry Sanders wasn't very tall. You don't have to be tall at running back if you have a nice compact body and can hit the holes. It baffles me. Tanner McLaughlin, if he happens to be there in the 7th round, is, in some people's minds, one of the best tight ends in this draft. And it's possible he could be here in the 7th round. So that being said, with the 221st pick, I am taking Tanner McLaughlin out of Arizona. You can see right there in that picture, he is leaping completely over a defender. I don't think Travis can quite do that, but I would love to see him work with Travis for a 221st pick, potentially getting someone who could literally compete to be a top-tier tight end. I'm not talking Travis Kelce. There's one Travis Kelce. He's the GOAT. But it would be awesome to see us get a tight end that he could kind of mentor and get to that level. So if you follow sports enough, you've heard of Daniel Jeremiah. Got to give him credit. This is a guy he pointed out. He knows he's higher on than a lot of the other people, but he has Tanner McLaughlin as his second tight end. So if you're getting him in the 7th, you're roughly thinking he is the 14th or 15th best tight end in the draft. That's incredible when someone like this says he's the second best. I think that's a steal. I hope we could pull it off. So here you can just see this is what the final draft looks like. The draft grade came out at an A-. Their least favorite pick is Isaiah Guerendo, and that's just because PFF changed his rating and dropped him way further down for no good reason. Everybody's going to have their running back choices. There's no great pass blocking running backs in my opinion. Outside, I think Dylan Johnson. I can't think of his name. Dylan something from Washington. He's a good pass blocker, but he's not a great runner. So pick your poison. The other side, it just shows. You can see I've done over at least 100 drafts on PFF. So there's a couple reasons why I wanted to add these slides on here. Just pass a little education on, share some information for people that aren't as familiar. But this is on the left is an example of what the Jimmy Johnson draft pick trade board it looks like. You can see the top picks worth 3,000 points, and then the Chiefs, if you look at the bottom of the chart, you can see our first pick at 32 is worth 590. It incrementally goes down with each pick, picking up speed the further you go down. So potential move-up spots, you got 7, 8, 9 with Tennessee, Atlanta, and Chicago. Those are teams I think would be willing to trade with us. Now, would we be able to give up what we need to get them? That's a lot we got to give up because our draft picks aren't worth nearly what others are. Our second is not worth very much at all. It's the same as the third, basically, is how it's viewed. Then you got Seattle and Los Angeles Rams at 16 and 19, respectively. So those are possibilities. That's if you're looking to move up for... not a Joe Alt or anything like that. Maybe Brian Thomas Jr. or even potentially like Olafashano or something like that. Those are some of the guys you could go up to those positions to get. So right here, I posted 2 of the examples of mock drafts I did that I traded up to get Joe Alt. I had to give up 4 picks in order to get him, and but I got an A+ for that one, A- overall rating. We still got Malachi Corley. Trey Benson dropped, so I thought, why the heck not? DJ James again, you can see I'm a big fan of him, as well as Tanner McLaughlin's always going to be my last pick if I can. It's just a cheat code in PFF. Who knows where he'll actually go. On the other side, if we want to trade it to get Brian Thomas Jr., it still shows that we can get Kingsley Suamataia. Kyrie Jackson's a solid third-round cornerback, which wouldn't be bad to try and replace Snead's production, and so on. So it's pretty much the same deal over here. The example I'm going to use is actually trading our first and second to try and move up into better spots. But it's the same sort of trade chart. You're just kind of going in through reverse. You're seeing what the second and third round picks are worth as far as the value. You can see it just barely goes down from our pick to Carolina's. So those are the 5 teams in the second round that have 2 picks. Some might deal with us, some might not. Houston might not want to make a trade with us. They don't want us to get better. And then, we'll see, because the rest are at least NFC teams. It's possible that we could look into doing something like that. I think it's a smart move if the right picks aren't there at 32. And just here's a quick look at what it looks like if we do trade back. I traded back with Washington. Had to give up some picks in order to do it, but got Kool-Aid McKinstry in the first with our first pick, Xavier Legette. Still got Patrick Paul with our third round, so we checked off a lot of boxes, our cornerback, our wide receiver, and our tackle, which isn't too bad. Plus, we were able to back end get a good running back and add some tackle depth as well. So, hope you guys enjoyed. This is the end of the mock draft segment, but I appreciate you guys watching my 2024 mock draft.